impact theory's gone through 3 phases. Phase 1 was really about headlines. It was a really simplified version. It was me having learned what I needed to do to my mind and understanding frame of reference. That if I could help other people build their frame of reference, their life would be much better. But it was not in the gross reality of life, the mess. It was the hyper oversimplification. Phase 2 is me trying to broaden that out. Phase 3 is just like the full reality of the complexities of life. So I don't want to talk about freedom unless we really talk about like what this is about. So, okay, that's all the sort of taxes, government, hey, you better understand debt, all that. But now give me like, what is the price of personal freedom? What does it demand of each of us? And why did you mention it in a book about happiness?
Yeah, so I'll talk about, for example, temporal freedom in your job. So remember earlier I said that one of the best ways that you can ensure occupational happiness is to pick a profession that allows you to instantiate your creativity impulse, right? Being a chef, being a podcaster, being a stand-up comic, being an author, you're creating. The second element for having occupational happiness is if you have complete temporal freedom in your job. So example, someone who is in a union factory job where it is mandated at which times you're allowed to take your bathroom break, you don't have the human dignity to decide when I can walk off the job because I really need to go to the bathroom. That's how much it's dictated. On the other hand, take the other extreme where I think I'm filled with gratitude and a sense of understanding how lucky I am that I have pretty much the highest level of temporal freedom, which means what? I still work incredibly hard, probably harder than most people, but I never feel like I'm working or I'm constrained because I'm deciding what to do. I'm the ultimate, in French we say vagabond, right? Or flaneur. You float, right? So now here I go to do impact theory. Later, maybe I'll go sit at the beach now in Newport Beach. Then I might work till late tonight preparing the book prospectus of my next book. And then I might wake up tomorrow and do. So because I feel like I'm completely in control of not only the things that I work on, but at which time I work on them and for how long I work on them, then I never feel existentially constrained. I am a free person, right? And so I think that if you can crack those two things in whatever profession you choose, creativity impulse, temporal freedom, you're well on your way to being happy. Now, I will explain the importance of freedom in another, perhaps more banal way. I used to be a very competitive soccer player, and I played what's called the number 10 position, even though I didn't wear number 10. The number 10 position is usually the player who's the playmaker.
Striker or midfield?
No, midfield. Usually he's the guy who's
You're the
just.
David Beckham?
David Beckham played more of a right-sided midfielder. Usually the playmaker starts off in the middle of the field and then starts moving around to try to exploit spaces. Now, why am I mentioning all this? Because my biggest strengths were two of them. Number one, I was a very skillful player. I was what's called a technical player. I have great skills. And number two, I have vision. In other words, I can look for those spaces to exploit. When I would have a coach tell me, today you're playing on the left side of midfield and you have to track back Tom, my brain would explode. Not because I'm a diva who doesn't like to be told what to do. It's because you've removed my ability to float around. That's what I did best, right? And so I use that example because I want to demonstrate that the concept of freedom can apply in choosing a job, in the grand sense of when we say freedom of speech and freedom of consciousness, but also in the context of freedom to move around on the soccer field. And so freedom is everything, man. It allows me to go through my day unencumbered by schedules. It allows me to play in a field without being told where I need to go and so on. So freedom is the whole enchilada.
Why do you think that matters so much?
To me,
No, abstract it out of yourself, because if we're trying to give people the ultimate map to happiness, why does that matter? Why should they work so hard to make sure that they're able to have the time freedom or autonomy or?
because it's ultimately personal agency, right? It's me at every microsecond deciding what my next second will be. My wife often jokes with me when she sees me stressed. She goes, "Why are you stressed?" I'll say, "Because I have 3 meetings this week." She goes, that's it? That's what's stressing you? Well, because I know that I have a departmental meeting from 10 to 12:30, and then I have to go teach from 1 to 3, and then I have to meet these. Therefore, I can't instantiate my freedom.
Right.
So I always joke that one of the worst possible jobs that I could imagine, I hope I don't get death threats from flight
You
attendants,
will.
I will, is flight attendants or pilots. Why? Because the minute that they get into the plane and the door closes, I'm not talking about fear of crashing. I'm afraid of fear of freedom, of
Right.
lack of freedom. I know that for the next 6 hours, you're going from New York to Lisbon, and there is nothing that you can do to extricate yourself from that reality. That drives me insane. I can't handle it. So I think it ultimately boils down to just personal dignity and personal agency.
It's interesting. Do you think that one's universal?
I mean, I do think that it's universal. I think the problem, and hence why people don't end up being happy, is that first of all, they don't know themselves enough to state it in the way that I just did, and oftentimes they can't. Either for life circumstances or pragmatic realities, I need to put food on the table, and I need to be a bus driver because it has good benefits, and I'm a union man. Therefore, I can't pursue what Saad is telling me, which is pursue my creative impulse. And so that makes people unhappy because deep down inside, I think it is a universal quest, but pragmatic realities don't allow me to instantiate that quest. And therefore, I wake up at 75 and say, my life has sucked. I never wanted to be an accountant, but my dad told me to be an accountant because it was a good job and secure job to have. But I wanted to be an artist.
That one's really interesting for me. So this is where I think know thyself, as you just said, is really important. So here's how I think people should think through, do I be an entrepreneur? And obviously I'm coming at it from a slightly different lens than you. Do I become an entrepreneur or do I become an employee? I have a almost pathological need to control my life. And I have a real problem with authority, being told what to do. Like you, when I see a bunch of meetings on my schedule, oh my God, like I literally go nuts. But I have a gigantic risk tolerance. So when everybody else gets to go home on the weekend and they know my paycheck is coming, I don't. So I have to worry about making sure your paycheck is coming. I have to take responsibility if your paycheck isn't coming, right? So it all falls on me. I have to think through all that stuff. It's going to be my name on the lawsuit. Like it's just, there's a real weight to deciding you're going to run your own company. And that isn't for everybody. And I have seen, whenever I say this, I picture the poem Howl by Allen Ginsberg. I've seen the greatest minds of my generation laid waste by, well, I forget the exact line, but I've seen the greatest minds of my generation laid waste by trying to be an entrepreneur and realizing, oh my God, this sucks.
Right.
I actually make way less money than I was making, and it's so much stress. So it's like, God, what is it? I think it was acting. Like if you can imagine yourself doing anything other than acting, go do that, because like acting is just rejection. Same with entrepreneurship. If you can imagine yourself doing anything else, go do it, because entrepreneurship is just failure. It's failure and stress.
And I don't know if you remember in the book, I have a whole chapter on persistence and the anti-fragility of failure. And there, what I talk about is that very few, if any, meaningful pursuits in life are not going to be littered with endless rejections and prospective failures. And I try to identify the most extreme examples of that. So I looked for the greatest of all time in different fields. So Lionel Messi, the greatest soccer player of all time, and anyone who says otherwise is an affront to human dignity. Lionel Messi was told that he would never be a professional soccer player because he was too small and slight.
Bro, he's tiny.
He's tiny.
How the fuck did he pull it off? He really is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm taking.
Thank you.
I'm
I love it.
I'm
Like
taking-
he's your
like,
son.
he's like my son. Okay. Number two, Michael Jordan, cut from his sophomore high school team. J.K. Rowling, rejected by every publisher
great
until
story.
the last one. Steven Spielberg, rejected by USC school 3 times. And so imagine if each of these folks had decided at some point on the trajectory of no, 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 you suck, said, yeah, I guess I probably suck. And we would have never known Messi and Jordan and Spielberg and Rowling and so on. So that's part of life. When I send a paper to an academic journal to publish, certainly if it's a top journal, you're talking about rejection rates in the order of 90 to 95%.
Ooh.
Now, this is a paper that from the moment that you first thought about the idea of running those studies, to applying and getting the granting money, to running the study, to analyzing the data, to writing up the paper, to sending it, you're talking probably a 2 to 4 year cycle. And that process has a 90% failure rate. And yet scientists still exist. So a large part of being a successful scientist is just being dogged, that you're going to just, so it fails at this journal, you send it to, by the way, when it's not rejected at that journal, it still has to go through 2-3 rounds of revisions. So I probably will have spent 4, 5, 6 years battling in getting that paper through the pipeline before you get to see it and read it. And so academia is nothing but doggedness, and of course all the other things, creativity, but persistence is a fundamental part of the thing. So you can't do anything meaningful if you're not dogged and anti-fragile to failure.
Okay, so we talked earlier about one of the ways you become anti-fragile, which is to want your ideas to be challenged. But how do you build that resilience?
You make decisions throughout your life with that mindset. So let me give a concrete example. When I knew that I was good in 2 things and I was interested in doing 2 things. I wanted to be a professional soccer player and I wanted to be a professor from a very young age. When my soccer career was dead because of some injuries and other circumstances as a late teenager, and now I was heading off to do my undergrad, so I knew that I would be living an academic, cerebral life for the rest of my life. I thought, what is the field that I should study for my undergrad that would be the most complex, that would train me in the same way that you go to a CrossFit gym, even if you're a soccer player and you do abs. Well, the abs is, you're not going to play soccer with your abs, but you need everything to be fit, right? Well, I knew that I would live a life of ideas. How can I train this mind to be the most rigorous analytical machine? Well, guess what? Study pure mathematics. And so I went and did an undergrad in mathematics and computer science, not because I thought that I was good in it, but I knew for sure that I would be unlikely to become a professor in mathematics, but that would be the thing that would serve as the greatest stressor. The path of most
find
resistance.
the things that are going to be difficult, useful,
right?
But difficult.
Hercules, there's the famous story of the bifurcation. You can go this way or you could go that way. That way is easier, and you'll get all the hot girls and the wine and so on. Or take the path of most resistance. Well, take that road. And so I think that mindset.
I don't know the story of Hercules well.
I think that's the one. I hope I'm not
more.
I think I'm not.
I think it works conceptually, even if it isn't. So I just want to follow that. So what is the moral?
So he's just take the path of greatest resistance in order to be able to have the most fulfilling and meaningful life. So the specific Greek goddesses that met him or whatever, I don't remember who they were.
Sure.
But that's the bifurcation.
I'm going to project something. Tell me if this is in line with what you're saying. So I think a lot about what I'm trying to convey to people. I feel like I have a thing inside me that I'm trying to give to people. And that my reason I'm put on this earth, I hate that fucking phraseology, but sure, is that you can control your life. That the game of life, oh, you're going to hate this because you like soccer. The beautiful game is life. It's not soccer. And
how dare you, sir?
Right? I'm an affront to human dignity.
Exactly.
And you need to learn how to play it well.
Yeah.
And the way that you learn how to play it well is to learn whatever it is you need to learn in order to not be controlled by anything other than yourself.
Yes.
That to me is freedom.
If you like that clip, check out another powerful clip right here, and I'll see you there.